Tensions are rising fast in the Middle East. China has reacted strongly to a major U.S. move in the Strait of Hormuz. Is this just political pressure or the beginning of something much bigger? Global tensions are rising after recent U.S. actions in the Strait of Hormuz sparked widespread international concern, highlighting the strategic importance of one of the world's most critical oil transit routes. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, is responsible for the passage of nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply. Any disruption in this region carries immediate and far-reaching consequences for global energy markets and economic stability. According to early reports, the United States has taken measures that could potentially restrict or control maritime traffic in the area, citing security concerns and the need to protect international shipping. However, the move has triggered sharp reactions from several countries, particularly China, which has labeled the action as dangerous and irresponsible. Beijing has warned that escalating tensions in such a sensitive region could threaten global peace and disrupt critical supply chains. Energy analysts are already warning of possible spikes in oil prices if the situation worsens. Even the perception of instability in the Strait of Hormuz often leads to volatility in global markets as traders and governments brace for potential supply interruptions. Countries heavily dependent on Middle Eastern oil exports are especially vulnerable, and any prolonged disruption could lead to inflationary pressures worldwide. Military experts are also closely monitoring the situation, noting that the presence of increased naval forces in the region raises the risk of miscalculation or accidental confrontation. The strait has historically been a flashpoint for geopolitical tensions, and any aggressive maneuver could quickly escalate into a broader conflict involving multiple nations. Meanwhile, international calls for restraint are growing louder. Diplomatic channels are being urged to remain open, with global leaders emphasizing the need for dialogue over confrontation. The United Nations and other international bodies are expected to weigh in as the situation develops, pushing for de-escalation and stability in the region. As the world watches closely, the coming days will be critical in determining whether tensions ease or intensify. For now, uncertainty looms over global markets, and the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of a rapidly evolving geopolitical crisis. China has strongly criticized recent U.S. actions in the Strait of Hormuz, calling the move dangerous and irresponsible, a statement that signals rising diplomatic tensions between two of the world's most powerful nations. The sharp response from Beijing has added a new layer of complexity to an already sensitive geopolitical situation, drawing global attention to the potential consequences of escalating conflict in a critical region. In an official statement, Chinese authorities expressed deep concern over the U.S. approach, warning that such actions could destabilize the region and threaten international peace. The Strait of Hormuz, a key maritime passage through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply flows, has long been considered a strategic choke point. Any disruption in this area can have immediate effects on global energy markets and trade routes. China, one of the largest importers of oil, has a vested interest in maintaining stability in the region. Officials emphasized the importance of keeping shipping lanes open and secure, urging all parties to avoid actions that could escalate tensions further. The use of strong language such as dangerous and irresponsible reflects Beijing's growing frustration and signals a more assertive stance in international affairs. The U.S., on the other hand, has defended its actions as necessary for ensuring maritime security and protecting its interests, as well as those of its allies. American officials argue that maintaining a presence in the region is crucial to deterring potential threats and ensuring the free flow of commerce. However, critics warn that such measures could be perceived as provocative, increasing the risk of confrontation. International observers note that this exchange highlights the fragile nature of global diplomacy, especially in regions already marked by political and military tensions. The situation has prompted reactions from other nations as well, many of which are calling for restraint and dialogue to prevent further escalation. Experts caution that if tensions continue to rise, the consequences could extend beyond diplomatic disputes. Increased military presence, potential miscalculations, and disruptions to global trade are all possible outcomes that could impact economies worldwide. As the situation unfolds, the international community remains on edge, closely monitoring developments. calls for diplomatic engagement and peaceful resolution are growing louder as leaders recognize the high stakes involved. For now, China's strong condemnation underscores the seriousness of the situation and the urgent need for careful handling to avoid a broader crisis. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, is once again at the center of rising global tensions, with experts warning that any conflict in this narrow passage could have far-reaching consequences for the entire world. Located between the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea, the strait serves as a vital artery for global energy supplies, with nearly 20% of the world's oil passing through it daily. Recent developments in the region have sparked concern among international leaders as increased military activity and political friction threaten the stability of this essential route. Analysts emphasize that even minor disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz can trigger significant volatility in global oil markets, leading to price spikes and economic uncertainty across multiple regions. The strategic importance of the strait cannot be overstated. Major oil-producing nations rely heavily on this route to export crude oil to global markets, while energy-dependent countries depend on its stability to meet their domestic needs. Any blockage, restriction, or conflict in this area could slow or halt the flow of oil, directly impacting industries, transportation, and everyday life around the globe. Governments and international organizations are closely monitoring the situation, urging all parties involved to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could escalate tensions. The presence of naval forces from multiple countries has raised the risk of miscalculation, with experts warning that even a small incident could quickly spiral into a larger confrontation. Economic experts are also sounding alarms about the potential ripple effects. A prolonged disruption in the Strait of Hormuz could lead to increased fuel costs, inflation, and supply chain disruptions worldwide. Developing countries in particular may face severe challenges as they struggle to cope with rising energy prices and limited resources. In response to the growing concerns, calls for diplomatic solutions are intensifying. World leaders are emphasizing the need for dialogue and cooperation to ensure the continued safety and openness of this crucial waterway. The United Nations and other global bodies are expected to play a key role in mediating tensions and promoting stability. As uncertainty continues to loom, the Strait of Hormuz remains a focal point of global attention. The coming days will be critical in determining whether the situation stabilizes or escalates further, with the potential to shape not only regional dynamics, but the broader global economy as well. Experts are raising serious concerns that continued escalation in tensions surrounding the Strait of Hormuz could significantly disrupt global trade and increase the risk of a wider international conflict. As one of the most strategically important maritime routes in the world, any instability in this region has the potential to send shockwaves through global markets and geopolitical relations. The Strait of Hormuz serves as a vital corridor for international shipping, particularly for oil and gas exports from the Middle East. A large percentage of the world's energy supply passes through this narrow passage every day, making it highly vulnerable to political and military tensions. Analysts warn that even limited disruptions could delay shipments, increase transportation costs, and create uncertainty in already fragile global supply chains. Recent developments, including heightened military presence and strong political rhetoric from major powers, have intensified fears of a possible confrontation. Experts caution that such an environment increases the chances of miscalculation or accidental clashes, which could rapidly escalate into a broader conflict involving multiple countries. The consequences of such a scenario would extend far beyond the region, affecting economies and security worldwide. Global trade, which is already facing challenges due to economic fluctuations and regional conflicts, could suffer a major setback if the situation worsens. Shipping companies may be forced to reroute vessels, leading to longer transit times and higher costs. Insurance premiums for ships passing through the region could also rise sharply, further adding to the financial burden on international trade. Economic analysts highlight that disruptions in trade routes often lead to increased prices for essential goods, including fuel, food, and raw materials. This could contribute to inflation in many countries, putting additional pressure on governments and consumers alike. Developing nations, in particular, may struggle to absorb these economic shocks, potentially leading to broader social and economic instability. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts are underway to prevent further escalation. International leaders and organizations are urging all parties to engage in dialogue and seek peaceful solutions to avoid a crisis. The importance of maintaining open and secure shipping lanes is being emphasized as a priority for global stability. As tensions remain high, the world is watching closely. The coming days will be crucial in determining whether the situation can be de-escalated or if it will move toward a more dangerous and unpredictable phase, with consequences that could reshape global trade and security.